You may think it's dumb, you may be annoyed, but you can't get rid of the Debo Devoid.
Debo Devoid!
Debo Devoid.
All right. So this is the Depot Devoid, and I am Matt Fagan.
And
with
Ted
me
Fagan.
here is Ted Fagan. And this is the first recording we were doing during Halloween season. So I feel like before we get into anything, maybe we should talk about Halloween a little bit. I think everybody probably knows a person that is really into Halloween, and that some people say like maybe they're a little old for that sort of thing. So cards on the table. I am that person in every group of which I am a part. And it's Halloween season, which is the most wonderful time of the year. And so Ted, what is going on with you for Halloween as an adult with no young children?
Well, for the first bit here, I gotta say, do you know our stepfather's approach to Halloween?
I have heard a couple of very dismissive comments regarding Halloween. I have never had the misfortune of actually like really being meaningfully around him at Halloween.
He is the opposite of you with Halloween. As a child, he did not like dressing up and he didn't understand why people did it.
Yeah, he's always struck me as someone who didn't really comprehend the idea of play or joy or general happiness. And, and that he would prefer that other people also not experience those things. And if they are to make the poor personal choice of experiencing those things, at least have the decency to do so without enthusiasm.
There you go. Yeah, okay. I can roll with that. So for me for Halloween, I haven't had a whole lot of time for thing doing that is outside of what I have to be doing around the house and at work. So I will carve a pumpkin or two. I will roast pumpkin seeds.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty sure that when I go to work at the bearing company I work for, I'm going to wear my work outfit that I still have from when I was 16 and 17 years old that I kept when I quit working at Chartwell's.
Hooters?
No, I've never even been in a Hooters. Chartwell's, the food service that at least at that time was at Eastern Oregon University, and I have a chef's jacket and a chef's hat, and the pants and neckerchief that I had to wear were not just standard of the time black and white chef pants that was kind of the norm. These are checkered and black and white, but some of the white squares have been replaced with all of the colors of the rainbow.
Oh, okay.
And the pants
all
are
of them?
Well, of the regular normal rainbow, except purple. I think it's red, orange, yellow, green, and blue. And they're just little checkers. And they're, because this was the late 90s and everything in the chef universe is a little bit behind, they're pretty close to stiff fabric MC Hammer pants.
Oh, nice. Nice.
So they're puffy a little bit.
Are they by Bugle Boy?
I hope so. But yeah, I still have that, and I think it's funny that 41-year-old me still fits perfectly inside of 16-year-old and 17-year-old me's clothes, and I can just wear when I had a food truck, that's what I did for Halloween too. It's like Yeah, I'm gonna dress up like that for fucking Halloween. I'm gonna slap my goddamn old chef clothing on and look like a fucking moron over here. It's gonna be awesome. So now I'm gonna go to a bearing place where people bring in greasy ass shit, and I might end up staining my white chef's jacket.
Oh
But I'm
man.
going to take that risk because it's great.
Are you going to
Oh,
bring a grill with you and make fajitas at work?
you know, I think it's pretty funny. I have been volunteered twice to run the barbecue because I am someone with a great amount of experience for
Right.
that. And I'm a vegetarian now, and it's like, here's all the meat, and you don't get shit. Okay, I don't care. It doesn't bother me. I like cooking all the food. I just think it's really funny that people are like, hey, the vegetarian's gonna do a better job on this meat than we are. Give it to Ted.
Well, at least they acknowledge it.
Yeah, you know what? I made some good stuff. I was a little disappointed though. A few weeks ago, I was told that somebody was going to be coming in, and one person was going to be bringing a bunch of steelhead or salmon, and the other person was going to bring in a bunch of elk burgers. And it's like, hey, no, who's going to be cooking that? I'm like, I'm here. I'm ready. You
Never
just present.
materialized.
No, never showed up.
Damn it. So have you, like, in the past, do you ever do like really elaborate Halloween costumes? Do you have tales of spending way too much time and effort?
One of my favorite Halloween costumes that I ended up making, uh, and I've done a few, but one of my very favorites was when Haley was about to turn 5, and we just moved to Eugene, and I had an idea, and what I needed a very large teddy bear. And I load her up in the car, and we're going to go to the thrift stores. And she's like, "What are we doing there?" I'm like, "We're going to get a very large teddy bear." And she's like, "For me?" I'm like, "No, it's for me. It's for my Halloween costume." And she's like, "Oh, right. Yeah, no, it's for me. I'm going to take it home and I'm going to cut its head off." She's like, "Okay." And we go to a bunch of thrift stores and we finally find a big one. And I grab it and I bring it out to the car. And she's like, "Thanks for the teddy bear, Dad. It's not for you. I'm going to take it home and cut off its head and pull out all of its fluff and wear it." And I'd explained that to her so many times, and she didn't believe me.
Just did not believe you.
Yeah, until I'm in the living room decapitating this big teddy bear. She didn't get upset about it or anything, but I still thought it was really funny that she was like, "Okay, sure."
Did you at least give her the gift of all the stuffing?
Yeah, she got to play with it. It was fun. But yeah, I cut off its head, and then I took a stocking cap, and after I peeled its face up, off enough to where I could actually pin it in there to make up the distance that wasn't quite the same as everything else.
Right.
I made a stocking cap for it, and I pinned the ears onto the outside of the stocking cap as one must. I got some big fuzzy brown gloves. I don't remember what all else I did, but it also involved a knife, and I loved it. I was a very murderous teddy bear. Uh yeah, yeah. It was a little frightening.
Very
I
nice.
enjoyed it. I had to trim its face hair so that I could see out the eye holes because the fluff kept getting in the way. It was a great costume. I probably geez, I don't know if I actually got that or if my ex-wife kept it in the bin of Halloween things that I made. I might still have my
I'm starting to
giant.
think that I need like an additional shed, like just as a Halloween closet.
It's a good time.
Because it seems like, I mean, I accumulate a lot of really Halloween costume specific objects and outfits that are for no other purpose. And sometimes the masks are really large and really irregular and do not store easily. And they take up
Yeah.
a great deal of space no matter what. And this year it's just getting worse, Ted. It's just getting so much worse.
Do you guys have a basement?
No, our house is fairly small,
I know,
and
but
there is
have you
no
ever
basement
looked?
or attic.
Have you ever looked?
I have, actually, and
Okay.
I have been assured there is no basement.
Because I've found fruit cellars and basements in houses under or around La Grande multiple times when I was working in
I
remodeling.
mean, if there was one, it was probably covered when they built the rest of the house.
Yeah,
Like the back room of the house, which is now like basically the laundry room and the small bedroom, was the entire original structure. Like everything else, like the big bedroom, the kitchen, the living room, that's all like, I mean, not new. It's still super old, but was not original. So if there ever was anything dug here, it was probably covered up when that happened.
in the mid 90s, one of my favorites that I found was when I was remodeling this one house and I was crawling around down there running telephone wire. And I discovered a fruit cellar that had been the foundation of the house that was put in there when they probably raised the original structure off the ground because it was probably just wood foundation and they jacked it up and put cinder blocks down for it. They just walled it off and left it in there. It was chock full of canned fruits.
Nice.
It was hilarious, and I was terrified. And the owner, when I was working there, he was like, "I want to have access to that. Here, have this giant wrecking bar and drag this 15-pound thing down there with your 12-year-old
That's so
self.
exciting.
Hammer through the wall." I'm like, "Fucking A, I'm gonna do that shit. You're paying me minimum wage, $4.25. I'm getting
Hope you
rich
didn't
on
accidentally
this."
unleash anything.
I was very worried when I actually was taking all the jars of fruit out of there because there was no knowing how old it was. I was worried that something might be pressurized and explode, but thankfully nothing did. We just carefully hauled everything out and dropped it while ducking down outside the big trash bin that they had there. It was a good time though.
Yeah, a basement would be great, except that I would be a bit nervous about damp since the paper mache is my medium.
You could move other things in there to make space in the better area for your other things.
Yeah, I don't know if my partner would be as appreciative of just like filling the house with creepy shit that is just out on display all the time. I'd be fine with that. But I think that I would be in danger of just sort of taking over the culture of the house and leaving him without a sense of representation.
I could see that. That's reasonable.
Because yeah, this stuff is. I should probably maybe I should sell stuff or just give a bunch of shit away because I'm getting lots of mask over here. The mask this year is really big and it's got the hands too, so it's just a lot of stuff going on. I've been watching a lot of Ultraman, various Ultraman series from Japan, and I saw an episode in which Ultraman was fighting this monster, which is a sort of giant robot alien monster that had huge shark faces where its fists should be. And I was like, yes, that right there is the problem. I keep forgetting to make masks for my hands. And that was the moment when I knew where I was going with this costume. So now it's just more shit that's gonna have to get stored away after Halloween. But it's gonna be really amazing on the day, and it's gonna look really fucking weird.
I like it. It's a good time. And now I have to ask you, jumping right in, if Babadook was made as a pornography, would it be a scat film?
I feel like the people who would make scat films are generally not that classy.
Well, I'm only going for it at the angle of Babadook, Duke.
I hear you. Like, I completely understand like why that seems to be the direction to go in. My hope would be that a pornographer with a bit more broad-minded taste would have already seized on the Babadook parody before the specific scat subgenre gets a hold of it. I'll tell you, I don't really know that much about how the contemporary pornography industry is run. But my guess would be that scat remains a bit of a niche.
I would hope so.
So in case you were wondering, we'll be discussing the Babadook today.
Hey, I just jumped in head first. I'm not worried about
I no problem. I think that would be, I'll tell you this. If it was a scat film, I would not watch it. If it was not a scat film, I would definitely check it out just to see where they go with their porn version of the Babadook. Before we started recording today, ladies and gentlemen, Ted and I were having a vivid conversation about pornographic parodies of mainstream films like The Madam's Family, Splatman Returns featuring Scatwoman, and Edward Penis Hands. Edward Penis Hands being my favorite, of course. Mine and yours, I assume. All of you out there in podcast land, clutching your beloved VHS copies of Edward Penis Hands.
Well, even for
and
those
saying,
of
yes,
us,
finally, someone out there understands us.
Even for those of us who've never seen that, it's gotta be the best.
I'll tell you though, here's the thing. The box for Edward Penis Hands, this is probably no longer true because I'm sure that there are DVDs of it out there with lots of pictures on the covers. The box for Edward Penis Hands, as originally presented on VHS when I found it at that store in Seattle, did not in fact show the penis hands, and included the tagline on the cover, "Imagine the possibilities." Well, Ted, the possibilities that I imagined typically included
Trimming
a man
hedges?
with giant gothic Robert Smith from The Cure hair and 5 beautiful penises on each hand. That's what I expected to see. But that is not what we actually saw in Edward Penis Hands.
No.
No, it was a guy who just had like one big penis for each hand, which, I mean, it is exactly what it says on the tin. It's
You can't
Edward
trim
Penis
hedges
Hands.
with that.
It's, I mean, what I was picturing was Edward Penis's hands. And that is not what they promised me. That was my own fault. I brought that to the table. They never told me that that's what I was going to get. But I still wished that I got that. Now there's a couple sequels, which I haven't seen, and maybe those like bring out the big guns. The 5 fingers of funk, as I like to call them.
Oh dear.
So, as always on Halloween, talking about Edward Penis Hands, because that's the Halloweeniest.
Well played.
But yes, it is the Halloween season. We decided to talk about a Halloween movie. And we were unable to both watch the movie that I suggested, Pontypool, which is awesome.
We'll get
hopefully
there.
Someday we will get to that. But you suggest, well, I think your wife suggested the Babadook. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Originally, is she a fan, or had she just heard about it?
She remembered that she enjoyed it, but didn't remember a lot about it. So we just loaded it up and checked it out.
Okay. I did not take any notes because I actually just sat and watched it with Bill, and I didn't want to like break the spell. Because my partner is not typically a fan of Halloweeny style movies. He's not he likes participating in Halloween fun, but he's not a scary movie guy. it's not that often that I can get him to watch scary movies with me. I tend to curate very carefully our viewership during the Halloween season, so that he is not too overwhelmed. And he's pretty game, he's definitely more receptive than he used to be, and open to a wider variety of things. I had also seen this once a few years back. I remembered thematically what it was about and sort of the vibe of the movie, but I didn't really remember a lot of details. I was pretty confident that it wasn't going to be super gory, which is the thing that usually keeps Bill away from the movies. So he agreed to at least give it a try, and he enjoyed it. Which was very nice. He liked it. He's brought it up a couple of times like since then, and so that was cool. And yeah, so I just sat and watched it, and hopefully I remember enough of it that we can talk about it.
It works for me. I took no notes as well. I just watched the movie. It's been a week and a half now since I've seen it, but I really enjoyed it. It was not a great film by any means, but it was done well, and I enjoyed the story. Um, and I am looking forward to discussing it more.
All right. Yeah, I think it's a good movie. It is, I like a scary movie that wears its themes on its sleeve very openly. This movie is not like, but it's very clearly it's a horror movie, but it's like it's about something, and you sort of tread in some dangerous territory there, where there's a lot of movies of that type where they try to be, I guess what they call like the elevated horror, I think is the term that people are enjoying right now. That when they're talking about like A24 films and other sort of slightly highbrow horror distributors. When you get into these types of movies, I think that there is sometimes a tendency to come across like you're almost apologetic about being a horror movie. And I didn't feel that from the Babadook. Like, I think it knew that it was a scary movie, but it wasn't trying to be like, it wasn't pulling punches, but it's a fairy tale. It's a fable. It's like, it's very much in that vein where things are a bit heightened, a bit storybook. But it is like, it's scary, and it's not pretending not to be. It's not pretending that it's better than horror movies, which I appreciate, because I find that a little off-putting sometimes.
I could see that.
So what were your first impressions?
Um, I kept waiting for things to take off more. Honestly, I expected and I kind of wanted more the whole time, which is actually not a bad thing. It wasn't overdoing it. It wasn't anything that was over the top. It was just kind of trucking along, telling its tale about this woman who's lost her husband and her horrible fucking shitty child. It was it was interesting. And
I see, I didn't think, I'm not sure what we're supposed to think of the kid. um I didn't think he was that, like, as a person, I didn't think he was that bad. um I think that, yes, he definitely had some behavior issues, clearly, like separate from the monster. But like, he wasn't that out there, and I feel like most of his behavior problems would have been largely absent if it weren't for her problems that she was already bringing to their relationship. I liked the kid, the actor, like, I liked that kid playing her son, Samuel, I think the kid's name was. He is like, he was, I like there's something just sort of naturally spooky about him, at least the way that he was photographed in the movie. I like he seemed sort of normal, but also like there was just something maybe inherently a little weird about him. Like if you go when you go into it, you don't know what's up or what it's going to be about, like, and you don't know like who you could trust in this movie. Like you could definitely be questioning about that kid. Like he's a little crazy eyes. Like there's something like a little off about him. But I like the actor like a lot. Like I think he did a terrific job in this movie.
He did. He really did. And I mean, so did the mom. It was honestly everything about it that I found negative was pretty good. It was I felt like it was laid out in a way that when I end up having my little short bit of here's what this movie actually is, it's pretty concise and pretty well played out. They did a good job.
Well, this movie doesn't really make any secret about what it's about either. I mean, it is certainly working in the realm of metaphor, but it's straight up like this is what our metaphor is. Like it's not it's not like it's weirdly unpretentious, like considering that it's maybe an intrinsically pretentious idea to have this kind of monster, you know. My I had him okay, well just maybe we should say like what this movie is in case someone doesn't know. Like this is a movie from 2014 about a woman who's losing her mind. Her kid is about to turn 7. Her husband died on the day that their kid was born. She is living in this nightmare world where the existence of her son is emotionally inextricable from the loss of her husband. And the movie is about a monster that is the manifestation of that grief and that sense of loss. And this movie just basically tells you that. And it doesn't leave you get, not that you could like be left guessing really, it's not like it's a secret, but I kind of like that it's a fable because it is so straightforward about it. Like this is because, and this is just because I've been watching Ultraman, there's a lot of like Japanese monsters that are like that, where it's like this is a monster of this thing, where like these things that we are battling are just physical manifestations of emotions or states of mind, or in the case of Godzilla, nuclear war. These are just these are what manifest, and we have to fight them physically, and that's what the Babadook is. And I kind of appreciate that sort of weird fairy tale foreignness of that. Yeah, I also love that it looks black and white even without being black and white.
I appreciate that they definitely had some kind of filter on that lens.
Well, and it was that, and also just the art direction and the palette for the movie was very, very carefully chosen. Like anything that was a light color was very, very light, so it would read with the white. And anything that was a dark color was very, very dark, so it would be with the black. The entire interior of the house was painted shades of gray, and it was like weirdly sumptuously gray. And I really enjoyed that. It was like really fun art direction.
It was. I trying to moving through the story, it was all just small little segments of just day-to-day life, and that's kind of what I appreciated about it. It was slow and it was dull, but there was always something going on, and it was never anything particularly big aside from interactions of, oh, mommy's batshit, oh, child's terrible.
It was, yes, it is a very methodically paced movie. This is not a film for the MTV generation, Ted.
No, it's not.
But I mean I like that. It's definitely like if you like, you have to be in the mood for this style of movie to appreciate. You have to be willing to get invested in that story because it is about someone unraveling, and that doesn't happen all at once. And so we have to feel that gradual disconnect from reality along with the mother. And I feel like the movie allows that to happen. And if you are on board with it, I think it definitely works in the story. And it was interesting. Like, we don't have a lot of characters. We don't really, like, she doesn't have a very big world. But I thought it fell apart very well. The way she became increasingly estranged from the very few people that she knew. I like that. Honestly, like, even the there were so many negative interactions that she had, but almost all of that was very understandable. It's like there isn't really anyone, there's no villains really in the movie. Like, the worst person is the little girl. Like, she's an actual terrible girl who was picking on Samuel, the one that he pushed out of the treehouse. She was being unprovoked terrible person. Everyone else, like, you kind of understand all of their actions, even if they are hurting each other.
Yeah. No, it's tricky. And yeah, that girl was real shitty, but you know what? That little boy, he still shoved her out the treehouse. He's a jerk.
Well, okay, yes, but he wasn't actually trying to hurt the little girl. He was reacting in a very uncontrolled way. But she was provoking him intentionally and wouldn't stop. I'm not saying what he did was right. I'm just saying he's a fucking 6-year-old. Yeah. And that reaction is understandable.
The like, mom I get why should have tried to kill her too.
Yeah, I mean, neither one of them being the best parents in that situation. And maybe a bit of a conversation between the two of them could have resolved things differently.
Maybe a little bit, or maybe you could have just been like, hey, there's this witch haunting me and I'm going to kill you now.
Well, I don't think all of that was on the table by that point. But we got there.
It was still happening under the table. We're getting there. Be like, hey, I'm ready. Let's go.
But I was totally on board with the story, in spite of, you know, a bit repetitive, you know, in spots, and you know, maybe it's an expansion of a short film, so like maybe it could have been expanded into a medium film rather than a feature. But I still was on board with that ride. I guess we're going to have to take a short break, and when we come back, we will have a little bit more detailed conversation with perhaps less pornography, or maybe more. I don't know. Donk, donk, donk.
Babadook, Duke, Duke. This is a podcast about somebody who should have done a better job of killing her child.
She did not successfully kill her child, but she did successfully fulfill the other murderous prophecy of the book of Babadook. I feel like everyone should be suitably warned about that. Generally speaking, I avoid spoilers of any kind for any movie. Like, if there's a movie coming out that I want to see, that I know I want to see, I won't even watch trailers for it. Like, I don't want to know things that are going to happen in movies. The only exception to that rule is I generally need to know if the dog is going to die. I have a much harder time with that than with people or anything else. So I will seek out spoilers on that one and only topic. To that end, I did find a very useful website with the easy to remember name doesthedogdie.com, which will provide you with extremely useful, relevant information, specifically about whether or not the dog dies, but also other triggers that people may have, such as like like specific like bugs or like any kind of thing that might be a real problem for you in a movie, this site might actually give you a bit of insight. In the case of this movie, I went to that website, I entered the name of the Babadook, and they told me that the dog was going to die and exactly the time code it was going to happen.
That's great. I never knew that this was a thing.
I discovered it really recently after the Hulu Prey movie, that Predator thing that they did. Did you ever see that?
Of course not.
It's surprisingly good. But
well,
the main,
I will get there, but I haven't watched it myself.
The main characters of the movie are a teenage Native American girl and her dog. They're like those are the protagonists. And I was like, I really want to watch this movie. I'm really excited about it. There has not been a good Predator movie since
the
Predator.
First one.
Yeah. I mean, I paused because I wasn't sure if I wanted to assume that Predator was a good movie, but it's good enough that I like Predator quite a bit.
It's got the best toxic masculinity handshake ever.
Absolutely. And there has not been, I thought, like a particularly interesting movie in that franchise since then. This one seemed promising, but I was like, I'm going to be really fucked up if I invest my emotions into watching this movie and then that fucking dog dies. So I sought spoilers. Now I know where I can do it and I can be safe.
Yeah, honestly,
so yes, the dog dies in the Babadook.
Yes, it does.
At 69 minutes in.
With concern to Predator, I've only seen the first and second movie. I watched the second movie and it was really bad.
It really is. And you know what? It is beloved. And I watched it again recently and I cannot for the life of me figure out why.
I saw it in the theater as a child of whatever age I was when that movie came out, and I haven't cared to watch another one. I mean, the same thing happened with fucking Highlander. Highlander 2 came out. I was like, fuck you guys. I'm done with you. I did watch the
Highlander sequels are just batshit bad. Like, it is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Highlander 2 is a whole other thing. I mean, good.
It was a giant can of very bad worms.
But yeah, Predator 2 was like, so it wasn't even bad enough. It was just so mediocre. And still it's so mediocre. They've done 2 like crossovers with the Alien franchise.
I heard those were really bad.
One of them is like virtually unwatchable. The first one, the one that's just called Alien versus Predator, is not good. But it has its kind of moments.
I heard it took place in a pyramid in Antarctica or something.
It does. Yep. The weird thing is that's almost canonical with the Alien versus Predator comic books that came like years before that movie. It actually it makes an attempt to like draw from some source material, and almost tries to sort of make sense within the 2 franchises. Doesn't always succeed, but doesn't fail nearly as badly as it could have. And then weirdly, the third act is it's kind of like a buddy cop movie between a scientist, one of the women who went down to the pyramid, and a predator, teaming up against an alien queen.
Okay, so I mean, that's funny.
But
is it a comedy? Yeah. Is it a comedy?
It's accidentally, but in like a way that still almost works. Like, okay, you immediately assume that you will see a silhouette of a human woman and a predator running side by side in slow motion with an explosion behind them. And you are absolutely right. That will happen. And I think that's delivering the goods.
I don't know exactly how to explain this moment, Matt, but as you were saying that, I just had a song start being created in my head about how I just always wanted to be a predator running with a human woman. And it would be a love song in the style of the late 70s.
Is it sung by the late John Denver?
No, no. Uh the
John
voice.
Cougar Mellencamp?
No, that's we're talking late 70s, not early mid 80s.
Either of those were both recording.
I wasn't
in the late
alive
70s.
back then. Leave me alone.
Well, then why are you invoking the late 70s if you're just
Because-
going to keep rejecting them?
Because I'm trying to figure out who it was. Yeah, I can't get his voice right. I think his last name starts with a C. Jim Croce? No,
Jim
that's not
Croce?
it. What the fuck did he do?
Bad Leroy Brown?
It might be him.
I mean, I might be wrong about both of those things, but
no, bad
Leroy
Brown.
Now I kind of want to go there.
That is the voice. Bad Leroy Brown. I always wanted to be a predator running with a human woman.
I'm trying to decide whether a predator with the voice of Jim Croce is more or less believable than a predator with the voice of John Denver. And I need to hear them both together.
I could see that. I also want to add here in our story about Babadook, as we're talking about predator, human, woman, Jim Croce love song, running with a human
and a movie
woman.
that you've never even seen.
Goddamn right. I just love it when somebody says things like, it was a human woman. Because, I mean, you could add some other things like, I am a human man. They are gardeners and carpenters. They are not tomato men. This feeling.
How about a blowjob? Maybe iron your pants.
I love it. These incorrect uses of things from somebody at the wrong time or in the wrong way. I find it ever so lovable. It's a human woman.
Well, I mean, I realize that most of the time that would be a given, but I mean, I was just drawing a comparison between her and the Predator. In case we had any Predators in our audience. I'm just trying to be inclusive to our Predator audience.
Hey, they're out there. You're not going to see them coming.
They've always been out there, apparently.
Exactly.
I still love. I probably mentioned this to you. Because I've had Bill watch a couple of Predators with me, and then he watched Prey with me as well. And he refers to the Predator as the shimmer in the woods. It's like he can never remember the name of the franchise, but he calls it the shimmer in the woods, and I think that's just lovely.
I think it's great, and it also, as silly as it is to say it, that's applicable to some of the shit that I saw in the forest behind Grandpa's house.
Well, I mean, maybe you can be just realizing now, finally, that what you saw was Predator all along.
Oh, yeah, it could be. It very well.
I mean, would Predator explain what you saw?
Maybe if I was running along with Predator and I was a human woman.
Would Alien versus Predator explain what you saw?
See, I'll never know because I haven't seen the movie, and I might.
Oh my god, the first one is fun-ish. I saw it in the theater the day that it opened for some reason, in what was 2004 or something, and I was pretty disappointed in the moment, honestly. In retrospect, with water under the bridge, it is enjoyable for what it is. The thing that is most memorable about it to me as a theatrical experience is that at the time, I co-owned a comic book store in Chicago, and just that day, someone had dropped off free flyers to a screening of a movie that wasn't out yet, that would be the screening would be taking place the next night. None of us had ever heard of the movie, so we didn't care. And then I went and saw Alien versus Predator that night. And before that screening started, they showed a preview for the movie that we got in the free passes for. And it was a little movie called Shaun of the Dead. And I saw that preview and I was like, holy shit, that looks amazing. So I turned to Rob, my boyfriend at the time, sitting next to me, and like, to see that tomorrow. So that was amazing. We went and saw Shaun of the Dead the next day, free screening. No one had ever heard of it. Nobody knew what this shit was. When the movie is over, fucking Edgar Wright, Nick Frost, and Simon Pegg walk out, not have any idea that they were going to be attending the screening. Holy shit. That was a great night. And that was fantastic. Brought to me by Alien versus Predator, because I probably wouldn't have gone and seen Shaun of the Dead if I hadn't gone to see Alien versus Predator and see a fucking preview the night before.
That's great. All right, Alien versus Predator just climbed a couple of rungs on the ladder, even if I have never watched it, never will. That in and of itself makes it better.
Yeah, so it's not so bad, is what I'm saying. Whereas the second Alien versus Predator is a movie where I said out loud to myself as I watched it, how can a movie this violent be this boring? But it was.
Well, shit.
The Babadook is slow, but it is not boring. Alien versus Predator Requiem is fast and bloody and fucking a yawn fest. There is a difference.
Fair. You got to do your murder better.
But it's interesting because the Babadook, I was never bored watching the Babadook. It is a deliberate pace, but I was never bored. And it was pretty good. It's a little like it's got some clunky bits, but for the most part, like the performances I thought were believable. The monster is creepy. They don't show too much or too little, I didn't think. It does all of the important stuff pretty well. It sells itself, and I was on board. I think the Babadook was creepy. It's got a good look. The move, like the whole movie is saturated with this look of the Babadook, and I enjoyed it. I liked it, and I liked the mom. She was having a really shitty time, but I liked her.
So in the end, there, when she fails to murder her child. And then the kid's like, the Babadook never goes away, or whatever it was that he said.
Right. Because you can't get rid of the Babadook.
You can't get rid of the Babadook, Mom. Whatever it was that he said. I'm doing a great impression, I can tell. So when that happens, and then she keeps the Babadook as a basement pet and feeds the invisible now Babadook sandwiches or whatever. What do you think this movie's actually about?
Well, I think the movie is about grief, and I don't think it makes any bones about that. But I'll tell you this. I watched this a few years ago, and I remembered enjoying it, but again, I didn't remember a lot of the details. When we decided we were going to watch it, the first thought I had was that the first time I watched the Babadook was before you and I had lost our brother. And so I knew that I was going to be coming into this maybe a little more easily wounded. So there are a lot of things about grief that are universal. And I think that anyone who has experienced it can certainly feel that and take something away from this movie. I think that because so much of the story in the movie was specific to the mother and her experiences, it was not hard for me to watch it for the most part without and feel raw about it. But the ending really affected me this time. And I think it does it goes, it's a little clunky, particularly when the kid is doing that sort of exorcism scene in the basement, that where they really like drive it home about what the Babadook is and what it's doing. That's the scene where he says, "I know you don't love me. The Babadook won't let you." And so if you hadn't figured it out before, like that's where you were like, "Oh yes, of course, obviously. Now I understand everything." And then so you really know that the Babadook is that absence. And so then it really makes sense. And all of that ending played out in a way that I probably didn't think much about the first time that I watched it. And this time it's like, it's so clear. Obviously, yes, of course. Like, she had all of this rage and sadness that was unprocessed. And through this sort of crucible with her kid, they have burned away some of that. But the truth is, the Babadook is the loss of something, and the loss of it will never go away. So you can't get rid of the Babadook because the Babadook is a thing that isn't there. So that's simply not possible. And you can find a place for it, a place where you are in control of that environment, a place where it doesn't run rampant over every other aspect of your life like an uncontrollable destructive force. You can confine it, you can nurture it in a different way and try your best to be in control of it, but it's never going to be gone. And I definitely did not tear up the first time I watched the Babadook, and I definitely did this time.
Well, Matt, that you did a great job of explaining that. I really absolutely appreciate that. But now my take is not going to be as heartfelt, and yours was wonderful, and I feel a little
Well, you can just
bad.
copy and paste it and put it somewhere else.
No, I mean the way that you explain that was wonderful, and associating that with the loss of Ian too was, I mean, I get that when you're approaching it from a point of loss. I was approaching it from the perspective of, this is a story about a woman who really needs to kill her child and failed miserably at doing it, but still wants to do it just so hard that she's going to keep it around so that she can get back to it later in Babadook 2.
I mean, she does promise that she'll let him see it eventually.
Exactly. She's gonna kill him.
So your version of this story, the Babadook is the necessary infanticide and it reached its crescendo, but that fucking kid was too prepared.
Yes, absolutely.
And managed to essentially just deflate it. But now she's very slowly building up its strength again.
She's feeding it. She's keeping it going.
Valid.
She is ready, but not fully prepared. She thought she was, but she couldn't do it.
Which one of our endings is the more hopeful?
Well, it depends on which end of hope you're on.
I mean, I guess
the anniversary
of her child... What is more likely, that she will successfully tame the grief for her husband and lead a productive and fulfilling life, or in your version, that she will eventually manage to feed the Babadook, get it up to strength, and this time successfully murder her child, remembering that all this time her kid is probably going to be getting stronger too. So which one of us is more likely to achieve that goal? Like, which version of the mom, mine or yours?
Well, I don't see her pumping iron, but I do see her poisoning the little boy. I could see that happening.
But is she gonna be able to do that soon enough?
It's tricky because honestly, with a story like this, they're putting the husband dies the day he's born. It's always going to be approaching the birthday. This is going to be an issue because one is very much connected to the other.
Yes.
And that's rough.
It's actually, I mean, it's a clever little premise. Like it works very well. It's very simple and it works. Like I mean, that's like, this isn't a movie that I would go back to over and over again because it's not like a fun romp, but it's like, it's a solid little, like, to the extent that like a meditation on grief can be a horror movie, like it does a good job of being that. Like I'm more likely to watch Scream probably, but I like this. And it gets name checked in Scream 5.
Oh, it's
twice. True. Which is how I pitched it to Bill. I remember that time in Scream 5 when she said, I still prefer the Babadook. This is what this movie is.
Yeah, no, and Babadook, actually, I would watch this again. I would definitely watch this again. I found it to be a pleasant movie, and watching it with the perspective of like, and I'm a parent, and I'm thinking this woman should have killed that kid a lot harder. Holy fuck, that kid! Wow.
See, maybe the fact that I'm not a parent is the reason that I liked him more, because I never had to deal with anything approaching that for an extended period of time. It was easier for me to have sympathy for the kid knowing that he was going to be out of my life in 90 minutes.
And as a parent, I've never thought like, oh man, I gotta kill one of my kids here because they're terrible as fuck. But I look at that kid, I'm like, oh damn, you little bastard.
The kid definitely had a couple of issues. But like I said, normally I don't even really think about child actors, but like I was fairly impressed because this kid had to do some weird shit and be sort of convincing at it, and I liked him. I mean, I'm not going to seek out like his other roles to watch this child actor, but like I liked him.
Yeah.
I mean, he's no Henry Thomas.
Well, no, but Henry Thomas came back, and who knows what's going to come to this kid here in 40 years.
Well, I mean, this is an Australian film, I think. So, I mean, maybe he's making tons of Australian movies.
It's possible. I initially had thought British. I'm like, wait a minute. Nope. My bad Americanness is showing here when I thought that.
They're all the same over there.
With their accents. We don't have a word.
They're just criminal British.
Hyper criminal British. They deserve to be in Australia.
That's what I heard. They're all either violent criminals or Crocodile Dundees or Priscilla Queens of the Desert.
There was a wonderful little show that I saw when I was in college about it was a show that was broadcast on public access television in Australia, largely by Aboriginal folks there, and they were doing a lot of different really good shows expressing the rampant racism that happens there. And I can't remember what the show was called, but this one was about a role reversal type situation where it was the Aboriginal folks who had showed up, and there were a bunch of white people living there in Australia, and they just roll up in a boat one day while these white folks are having a fucking grill out fest, and they get on the land and like, this is our area now. What do you call this place? What do you call this place? Our land that we own now. This is a barbecue area. Barbecue area. That's what it is. Ah, yes, we own barbecue area. Yes. Something to the effect of that. It was great. It was the best swapping places thing I'd ever seen of like, this is how fucked up what you've done is.
Right. That's interesting. I have never seen that.
We live in barbecue area.
My grandfather's from barbecue area.
It was a good one.
And I assume you have no idea what that was called.
No.
Maybe you just made it all up right now.
Well, give me some time. I can figure it out. I've actually figured that one out before and showed it to people a couple of times.
Okay. Yeah, I'm curious. I'm sure we can find that somewhere. I'm curious now. It's probably better than Predator 2.
I guarantee that you'll have much more fun watching it.
Or there's also two others. There's also one called Predators, which is terrible, and one called The Predator, which is even more terrible.
I think I'd be
but they're more expensive.
Well, that talking cheap,
they
talking
look
more
better,
entertaining.
They look way better and are way worse.
I'd rather watch Velocipaster again.
I feel like I can't watch. I feel like I would have really enjoyed Velocipaster when I was 16, and that I would try to watch it again when I was like 45, and I would not be able to get through it. That's what it sounds like to me.
Did you ever watch The Man Who Killed Hitler and Then the Bigfoot?
Yeah, many times. Well, like 4 times.
I've watched it twice, and I haven't actually watched it either of those times because I could not pay attention to it.
You have expressed to me before that you did not appreciate The Man Who Killed Hitler and Then the Bigfoot, which I found surprising, frankly. It's an odd little movie, but there's nothing about it that says to me that you would not enjoy it. Like
there's nothing about it that was gripping. I couldn't sit down. I was like, I'm gonna get up and cook something. I'm gonna talk.
I mean, it's a slow burn. It's a weird old man movie, but it's kind of lovely in a way. I don't know. It's such an oddball movie. We
never know what's in the box. What's in the box?
Admittedly, I'm not generally a fan of that trope. But yeah, I liked that movie. I thought it was an interesting little character portrait. Yeah. And Sam Elliott was terrific in it. I mean, admittedly, like, I got that movie because my partner has like a decades-long crush on Sam Elliott, and so anytime there's something with Sam Elliott that looks interesting, I pull it out. And that one seemed like not only did it star Sam Elliott, and therefore Bill would be very interested in it, but also it sounded like the same sort of batshit thing that I would like, which is an odd, Venn diagram intersection. So it was like, it was tailor-made as like a date movie for me and Bill, really.
One day I'll watch it again, and maybe one day I'll actually watch it.
I mean, it's not my baby. I'm not going to be offended if you never see it.
I own the fucking thing. I need to actually get my money's worth. I paid extra to have it delivered to me the day it was released on fucking DVD. I'm gonna have to get it.
That is an odd thing to do, and then
I wanted it that much. But then I couldn't sit for it because it was so goddamn uninteresting.
Well, I was interested.
Well, that's good. Maybe I will be if I can convince myself to sit for it. On that note, though, hey, flat earthers got to go.
I mean, absolutely. In all circumstances, just
Eject
tip
them.
the earth to the side and
watch them fall right off.
Tap it on the edge, and they just fall right off. That's what we should do with them.
It's
like we're emptying an ashtray.
Yeah, or like one of those labyrinth games where it's like, oh hey, there's a hole over there. Get on in it.
No, there's that conjures images of spheres, and that we don't want to do that to them.
Shit.
That's basically like racism to flat earthers.
You're right. I hadn't considered that. We needed to use a cube.
Everything that we talk about around flat earthers has to have flat sides.
Those poor bastards.
Even cylinders are getting a little iffy.
Ooh, yeah. No, those are unacceptable. All right. Well, we are about out of time here.
We are indeed.
Plus the dogs are screaming.
Uh-oh.
Yep.
It is Halloween. There should be lots of screaming.
It's true.
My Halloween costume looks like she's screaming all the time.
Even from her hand eyeballs.
I kind of want to like find a way to project a recorded shriek like at will constantly. Not there yet, but maybe. There's still time.
I like the idea, though.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Until next time, we were going to get spooky again in some capacity, as yet undetermined.
But we'll get there.
It'll be terrifying.
Absolutely.
All right. I love you, Ted.
Love you too, Matt.
And I hope that you can survive the next terrifying days of October before the monsters come.
Oh no,
not that I sent any your way. Not at all.
Around us.
Oh, P.S. I actually did send you something. You should maybe be getting it in the mail tomorrow. We'll see.
I like the idea. Well, I love you, Matt.
Until next time. Happy Halloween from Deeper Devoid
season.
Depot Devoid is hosted by Matt Fagan and Ted Fagan. Depot Devoid is not hosted by Ian Fagan because he died and we miss him. Find us at Depot Devoid Podcast on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and all your favorite podcast platforms, or reach us at depotdevoidpodcast@gmail.com.